The first time I saw her, I wanted to fire her. Or kiss her. Maybe both. She walked into my office with a quiet confidence that wasn't arrogance, but it made the walls I had built around myself tremble. I was Claire Donovan, 34, CEO of a rapidly growing tech company in San Francisco. My life was polished, efficient, and painfully predictable. Meetings, contracts, numbers, everything neatly lined up, safe, unshakable. And then came her. Emily Hayes, 26, freshly hired as my new executive assistant. She was not what I had asked for. She was not what I wanted. Yet, every cell in my body seemed to betray me the moment she smiled. I tried to ignore it, of course. That was the only reasonable thing to do. She was my employee. Younger. Off-limits. And worst of all, she was a mirror held up to the emptiness I had been pretending didn't exist. "Your schedule for tomorrow," Emily said that first morning, placing the folder gently on my desk. Her voice was low, careful, but it carried a warmth that seemed to seep into the air, filling the sterile room with something dangerously close to comfort. I didn't look at her. I couldn't. Instead, I kept my eyes glued to the papers, fighting the urge to lift my head and study the curve of her lips, the way a loose strand of chestnut hair brushed against her cheek. "Thank you," I said curtly. She nodded and left. But her presence lingered, like the aftertaste of wine you didn't mean to drink but secretly loved. Over the following weeks, I tried to convince myself she was just another assistant. Yet Emily wasn't like the others. She anticipated things I hadn't voiced, remembered details I had forgotten, and looked at me with an attentiveness that unsettled me. One late evening, the office was almost empty when she knocked softly on my door. I had been staring at the city lights through the glass walls, the weight of the day pressing down. "Claire." Her voice was hesitant, but the way she said my name without the title, without formality, made me turn. She was holding 2 cups of coffee. "You looked like you needed this." I should have declined. CEOs don't drink coffee with their assistants at 9 p.m. But instead I found myself reaching for the cup, our fingers brushing briefly. A jolt ran through me, sharp and undeniable. "Thanks," I murmured. She sat across from me, uninvited yet somehow fitting perfectly into the space. For a while, neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't awkward, it was charged, alive. I hated how much I wanted to break it, to ask her questions I had no right to ask. About her past, her dreams. But she had someone waiting at home. Instead, I asked, "Why did you choose this job?" She tilted her head, her eyes searching mine. "Because I wanted to be close to something that mattered. And I think you matter." I nearly dropped the cup. No one spoke to me like that. Not investors, not board members, not friends. No one dared. And here she was, saying it so plainly, as if it were the simplest truth. I dismissed her quickly that night, trying to regain control, but her words echoed in my mind long after I lay awake in my penthouse, staring at the ceiling. The tension only grew. Every day, I caught myself stealing glances at her. Every day I scolded myself. I had built my reputation on discipline, on never letting emotions interfere with business. But Emily, she was not business. She was chaos disguised as grace. One afternoon, during a particularly brutal negotiation with a partner company, I snapped at her. Not because she had made a mistake, but because her nearness was unbearable. She left the room without a word, and I felt the sharp sting of guilt twisting in my chest. Hours later, I found her in the break room, leaning against the counter, arms crossed, eyes red as if she had been holding back tears. My heart cracked. "Emily," I said quietly. She didn't look at me. "You don't have to talk to me like I'm disposable." The words sliced deeper than I expected. I had spent years being cold, distant. It was how I survived. But seeing her hurt because of me felt like suffocating. "I'm sorry," I whispered. 2 words I rarely used. Her eyes finally met mine, and for a moment, the walls between us threatened to shatter completely. I should have walked away, but instead I took a step closer. The air between us tightened, my breath catching as her lips parted slightly, as if she too was battling the same impossible pull. That night, I went home and stared at my reflection in the mirror. I didn't see the powerful CEO anymore. I saw a woman unraveling, torn between the life she had built and the dangerous possibility of something real, something tender, something forbidden. Emily Hayes was not supposed to matter. And yet, she was becoming the only thing that did. The breaking point came on a Friday evening when the rain outside painted streaks across the glass walls of my office. I had stayed behind reviewing contracts, though nothing in front of me made sense anymore. My chest was heavy with words I hadn't said, feelings I had tried to bury. The door creaked and Emily stepped in quietly. She was drenched from the storm, her hair clinging to her face, eyes glowing with a fire I hadn't seen before. "You can't keep pushing me away and then pulling me close," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't know what you want, Claire. But I can't. I can't keep guessing." Her honesty hit me like thunder. I had been cruel in my silence, selfish in my longing. She deserved clarity, not confusion. "I want you," I confessed, the words breaking out before fear could stop them. My voice cracked, raw and unpolished. "But I'm terrified. I've built this life on control, on never letting anyone see me fall apart. And then you walked in and suddenly, nothing is in my control anymore." Emily's eyes softened, though tears threatened to spill. She stepped closer slowly, as if giving me time to retreat. I didn't. I couldn't. Her hand reached for mine, our fingers intertwining for the first time, deliberate and unshakable. "You don't have to control everything," she whispered. "You just have to let yourself feel." And so I did. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to crumble into someone else's arms. Of course, reality wasn't kind. Rumors spread quickly within the company. A CEO and her assistant. It was scandalous, inappropriate, dangerous. Investors raised questions. Board members hinted at distractions. I was forced into late-night calls defending not only my leadership but my right to happiness. I almost let them win. I almost convinced myself to cut her out of my life for the sake of the company. But every time I imagined walking into the office without seeing Emily's smile, the hollow ache in my chest told me the truth. Love wasn't a distraction. Love was the only reason any of this mattered. The confrontation came during a board meeting. The tension was thick, accusations flying, questions about my personal entanglements. My hands trembled beneath the polished wood table, but when I glanced at Emily sitting quietly in the back, her presence steady as always, I found my courage. "I will not apologize for being human," I said firmly. "Yes, I am in love with someone who works here. She is extraordinary. She makes me better, not weaker. And if you think that disqualifies me from running this company, then perhaps you never believed in me in the first place." Silence fell heavy in the room. Some frowned. Some looked away. But no one dared to challenge me further. For the first time I felt free. That night, Emily and I walked together through the quiet streets. The storm finally cleared. The city glowed with reflections of neon and starlight. She slipped her hand into mine openly, without hesitation. "Are you sure about this?" she asked softly. I stopped, turning to face her fully. "I've never been more sure of anything." Her smile bloomed, radiant and unguarded, and I kissed her there under the dim glow of a street lamp, where the world finally felt small enough to hold us both. Months later, everything had changed, and yet everything was the same. The company continued to thrive. The whispers died down, replaced by quiet respect. And at the center of it all was Emily, no longer just my assistant, but my partner in every sense of the word. We built a rhythm together. Mornings filled with coffee and laughter, evenings with quiet walks and unspoken promises. She taught me how to breathe again, how to let go of the iron grip I had on my life and simply exist messy, vulnerable, alive. One night, as we curled up on the couch of my apartment, the city lights flickering through the windows, she rested her head on my shoulder. "You know," she murmured, "when I first took this job, I never imagined this would happen. I just wanted to work for someone I admired. And now, I get to love her too." I kissed the top of her head, my heart swelling with a warmth I could no longer deny. "You didn't just capture my heart, Emily. You saved it." Love had come to me not as a grand gesture or a perfect story, but as a quiet rebellion. A risk I never thought I would take. A fire I never thought I'd allow myself to touch. And yet, with Emily beside me, I finally understood true power wasn't in control. It was in surrender. It was in loving, fully and without apology. And in that surrender, I found everything I had ever been searching for. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.